9 to the negative 1/2. So the first to do, I want to rewrite this. Now this denominator becomes my index. And since it's 2, that means I'm just taking the square root of 9 and raising it to the negative first power. So we can do one of two things here. We can look at that negative exponent first, or we can evaluate the parentheses first. And I'm just going to go straight through order of operations and do my parentheses first. So the square, inside that parentheses I have square root of 9. So square root of 9 is positive 3 raised to the negative first power. And remember, this is the same as 3 over 1. And whenever we have a negative exponent, that guy moves downstairs. So what else is living on top is a positive 1. And that 3 moves downstairs, and then his exponent becomes positive. So in this case, it's just 3 to the positive 1, which is the same as 1 over 3. So we need to make sure that we evaluate the radical first, and then we look at the exponent. Okay, so if we evaluate the radical first, it's going to make our lives a whole lot easier when we're looking at that negative exponent. So my answer for this one is just positive 1 over 3. So let's look at example number 8. Now for example number 8, alright, so example 8, I have negative 27 to the 1/3 power, but this is a little bit different because I have negative in there. Now you should only ever have a negative inside if the exponent is positive or is odd. So we should not ever have a negative, be trying to take a negative root unless the index right here or the denominator is an odd number. Because let's think about it. This is the same as the cube root of negative 27, all of that raised to the first power. So that's the same as just saying the cube root of negative 27. And so I'm looking for a number that when I multiply it by itself 3 times gives negative 27. So I know right off the bat that my number has to be negative. So then I'm just trying to think of what number times itself gives me 27. Now I know this one just off the top of my head, it's going to be negative 3, but let's test it. So negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. Negative 3 times 3 is positive 9 times negative 3, and that's going to give me negative 27, which is what I was looking for. So the cube root of negative 27 is going negative 3. All of that was being raised to the first power, so I'm done here. So anytime we have a negative inside that parentheses, as we need to make sure that the denominator or the index is odd, but that means that our answer is going to for sure be a negative number. So we just need to make sure that we, then all we're looking for is just the nth root of that number. But we do need to make sure that we recognize that anytime the inside is negative, our answer is also going to be negative. So let's try another one that's a little bit more complicated. Now this one is the cube root of negative 216. So I'm trying to find the number that multiplied by itself gives me negative 216. So I'm just going, since this is a bigger number, I'm going to just pick a number and let's see where it goes. So I'm thinking that maybe it's going to be 4. So if I have negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4, that's going to give me positive 16 times negative 4, which gives me negative 64. So that's not big enough. So maybe, I would think maybe 5, but this number doesn't end in 5. So let's try 6. So negative 6 times negative 6 times negative 6. That's going to give me positive 36 times negative 6. And positive 36 times negative 6 gives me negative 216. So the cube root of negative 216 is going to be negative 6. So sometimes we might need to guess and check for some of these, but it should still never be anything bigger than what you can do by hand. So you do not need a calculator to do these problems. So looking at the last one, we have 5 to the 5th root of positive 32, all of that to the negative 4th power. So I'm looking for the number that when I multiply it by itself 5 times gives me positive 32. Now this 32 is not very big, especially to be multiplying a number by itself 5 times. So I'm actually going to, my guess is that it's 2. So let's try it. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. That gives me 4 times 4 times 2, which is 16 times 2, which is 32. So the fifth root of 32 is 2, so I know that this is 2 to the negative fourth, and then we can evaluate that negative exponent. So this is the same as 2 over 1, and that he has to move downstairs. So this is 1 over 2 to the fourth, because when we move it downstairs, that exponent becomes positive. And then 2 to the fourth is going to be 1 over 2 times 2 times 2, which we actually did over here, 16. So my answer is 1 over 16.